I was Sarah, 32, at my baby shower. Laughter spilled over, glasses clinked, and guests buzzed around, excited about my new chapter. Amidst opening gifts, I saw a vibrant pink envelope. Curious, I tore it open without suspecting the nightmare inside. Inside were photos of Michael, my husband, with another woman celebrating her pregnancy. Their eyes sparkled with love, just like ours once did. My world shattered as I dropped the photos, staring into Michael's eyes, which were now flooded with guilt and panic. Michael stammered, reaching out, pleading. The facade unfolded before everyone. Whispers quickly filled the air. With my legs shaking, I excused myself from the room, heading to the sanctuary of the bathroom, where my heart pounded against my ribcage. Inside the bathroom, betrayal and deceit gripped me. Words couldn't capture the jagged pain tearing through me. Behind the door, Michael's voice called, unfamiliar now. "Sarah, please talk to me." The urgency wrapped around every word. I cradled my unborn child, struggling to brace for the storm of revelations threatening my world. I needed air, stepping outside to the cool breeze, where reality seemed almost palatable away from that suffocating scene. Standing outside, away from prying eyes, I took deep breaths, trying to piece together fragments of my shattered reality. Michael found me outside, his face carrying raw regret. He tried to explain, but words faltered, barely scratching the surface. I asked the question clawing at me, needing to know how long, a simple number that would redefine everything. His silence was louder than any revelation. My hand tightened around my swollen belly, defensive and protective. He admitted it had been over a year of carefully crafted lies unraveling before my eyes. I stared at him, anger bubbling up. How could he do this to us? To me and our unborn child? I wondered if I was just another chapter in his twisted narrative, disposable and easily replaced. The feeling of being replaced gnawed at my heart, its edges threatening to tear. Michael's betrayal was too deep to comprehend. I couldn't bear the proximity any longer. I turned away, retreating further into the dark embrace of the night. The darkness felt comforting, a stark contrast to the bright deception I had emerged from. I caught my breath, preparing to face what came next. Unexpectedly, my friend Lisa appeared, offering a soft voice and the warmth of understanding. A surprise turn of comfort amidst chaos. Lisa's presence grounded me. Her reassurance echoed, providing strength as I grasped at fragile beads of trust. Together, we walked back inside, the resolve returning. I knew unraveling Michael's lies was just beginning. Guests were still buzzing, but their eyes held a new, curious shine that whispered silent judgment. I felt a strange separation between who they thought I was and who I had become in just minutes. Michael approached once more, his expression an intricate mix of fear, regret, and hope. I faced him, not in the way of forgetting, but with the steel-clad resolve of one who seeks the truth. His words stumbled over apologies, but I needed more than sorry. I needed clarity, no matter how painful. I braced for answers that would tear our lives apart or might offer threads to sew them anew. With hope and sorrow intertwining, I realized facing the truth was only the beginning of my journey. I sat in my small kitchen, staring at the coffee cup in my hands. I'm 29, messy brown hair, wearing an old college hoodie, feeling a mix of nervous anticipation about today's revelation. Mark was still asleep when I snuck a glance at his phone. My heart raced. He had been distant lately, and I didn't know why. I just needed a glance for peace of mind. The phone buzzed in my hand as a message popped up. I tried to steady my breath, but my hands shook. I'd never done this before. It felt invasive, but necessary. I read the message, "Tonight, works." My heart sank. Who was he meeting? My mind raced with possibilities, irrational and real. But it was presumptive to jump to conclusions. I decided to confront him, my body cloaked in a jittery determination. I wanted the truth, or maybe I dreaded it, filling me with a cocktail of courage and fear. He sat up, surprised to see me looming above him. "What's going on?" he asked groggily. This was it. I couldn't back down now. I blurted out, "I saw a message on your phone." His face froze, a mix of guilt and frustration. "It's just work," he muttered, trying to dismiss it. But his eyes didn't meet mine. They told a different story, one of hidden discomfort. Feeling unconvinced, I pushed further. "Why not tell me then?" I prodded, my voice quivering slightly. Silence hung briefly between us, thick and uneasy. I could sense something more. Suddenly, Mark's mask slipped. "I was planning a surprise," he admitted softly, breaking the tension. Relief washed over me, but doubt lingered. Was it genuine or a clever deflection? He told me about the surprise party for my upcoming birthday. I felt foolish, embarrassed by my impulsiveness, but touched by his effort. A mix of warmth and regret flooded through me. I apologized, stumbling over my words, but Mark just chuckled, understanding. "You're just curious," he said, reassuring me. I was relieved, yet the guilt of mistrust gnawed at my insides. Days passed, but something felt off. Mark's affection seemed, well, rehearsed, lacking that genuine spark. Doubt resurfaced, nagging at me quietly, growing stronger. I overheard a whispered phone call, Mark in the hallway murmuring. My curiosity piqued again, and I tiptoed closer. It wasn't paranoia anymore. Suspicion was actively sprouting. He caught my eye when he hung up, looking startled but quickly smiled. "Hey," he said too casually, masking discomfort. This act was becoming too frequent to ignore. Enough was enough. That evening, I decided to check his phone again, needing clarity. My heart pounded. It felt wrong, but my mind craved resolution. There it was, another message. Almost ready. I felt my chest tighten, eyes watering slightly. This wasn't what I wanted to find. I feared the worst. I decided to confront him once more. This time, I wasn't backing down until I got the truth. Nervous resolve pushed me into the living room where he was. Mark was on the couch, startled by my sudden entrance. "We need to talk," I insisted, planting myself firmly in front of him, leaving no room for escape. His defenses crumbled as I pressed, reminding him I needed honesty. He sighed deeply, the moment finally breaking him. "It's not another party," he confessed heavily. He revealed an impending job move that he hadn't told me about, fearing my reaction. I felt a mix of betrayal and understanding, stunned by his hidden burden. It was a job in another city, far from here. He was torn about the opportunity versus our life together. My emotions were chaotic, a hurricane of frustration and empathy. We talked for hours. It was draining but honest, revealing layers of fear and hope. Still, the choice was hanging over us, daunting and unfinished. As night fell, a quiet understanding emerged. I still felt raw, but my fears were now seen, not hidden. It was strangely comforting amid the uncertainty. I realized, sitting alone later, that despite everything, our trust had broken but wasn't irreparable. Sometimes truths need revealing before real healing can start. The next morning held a fragile hope. I brewed coffee, feeling tentative yet determined. We'd face this decision together now, as partners, rather than isolated islands. Mark joined me in the kitchen, face softened by acceptance. "Let's figure this out together," he proposed, the implicit promise glimmering between us like new dawn. With renewed openness, we discussed possibilities, weaving our distinct desires into a shared plan. There was still uncertainty, but now it felt shared and surmountable. Days turned to weeks, and our plan slowly took shape. We faced challenges, but they seemed less daunting now. It felt like reclaiming control, shedding old burdens. Trust is a fragile thing. Rebuilding it proved tough, but rewarding. Our relationship evolved, and I held on to the belief that truth was a sturdy foundation. I learned that hardship can reveal deeper truths, a mirror reflecting unlikely strength. Together, we embraced this change, realizing that love is both vulnerability and resilience. I sat alone at the kitchen table, my mind looping through the last conversation with Sarah. Her words felt like daggers. Could she really have lied about everything? The kitchen felt too quiet, almost foreign. I found myself playing with my coffee, watching the ripples. Sarah used to say nothing beats honesty. I felt anything but honest now. I went back to our last text exchange, hoping to find something genuine. My heart raced as each line seemed more detached. How could she make me feel so naive? I thought about confronting her. I imagined her denying, twisting things, leaving me even more confused. The idea of seeing her felt like walking into a storm. I decided to speak with Mark, a mutual friend who always seemed wise. His calm demeanor had a way of settling my scattered thoughts. Maybe he'd know more about Sarah's intentions. Mark's words were measured, yet piercing. I saw Sarah last week. She was with someone else. It felt like the world tilted, struggling not to crumble under this revelation. I left the cafe, the chill of betrayal nipping at my skin. Each step felt impossibly heavy as I tried to process the magnitude of what Mark had said. Memories of Sarah clung to me, suffocating my sense of reality. Her laughter, her promises. Had they all been part of some cruel play? Back home, I found myself pacing the living room, my mind racing between rage and sorrow. The truth sat uneasily like a stranger here. I absent-mindedly flipped through an old album. Each photo was a reminder, a timeline of moments which now felt tainted. I didn't know what was real anymore. Suddenly, my phone buzzed, a text from Sarah. My heart jumped, a strange mix of hope and dread. Did she know I'd learned the truth? I hesitated, then opened her message. "Can we talk?" It read. Simple words, yet they felt lined with complexity, like a book whose real meaning is between the lines. I agreed to meet Sarah, my curiosity overpowering caution. Outside her apartment, I paused, catching my breath. What was it she wanted to say, now of all times? Sarah opened the door, slightly hesitant. Could see the disarray in her eyes, mirroring my own. We sat in silence, two sides of a broken mirror. Words began spilling out, apologies, excuses. Each painted a different picture. Yet trust felt distant, like trying to grasp smoke. Every sentence Sarah uttered felt both vital and void. My mind shifted from believing to disbelief like a pendulum unceasing in its swing. A sudden knock at the door interrupted us. Both our heads turned, surprise melting the tension momentarily. Who could it be now? It was Mark. "I had to tell you both something," he started, eclipsing every word Sarah had said with his seriousness. Mark spoke, weaving truths and revelations neither of us expected. He revealed secrets Sarah couldn't deny, shedding light on every suspicious crack. When Mark finally left, silence tipped back into the room. Sarah's gaze refused to meet mine, her guilt slowly unfurling. Sarah started crying, finally admitting everything. Part of me felt like a spectator, watching a show where I didn't know the ending. We sat there, unraveling the past. It felt surreal, yet raw. In her vulnerability, I saw fragments of our old sincerity. Could I dare to hope again? Eventually, I found words, offering cautious forgiveness. Unsure if it would last, but it felt like lighting a candle in darkness. As I left her apartment, the night air felt clearer, less oppressive. I had confronted truth. Now a choice remained whether it'd lead to redemption. Days passed and uncertainty lingered, but I felt steadier. Trust rebuilds slowly, like stitching together fragments. Sarah and I started talking again, mindful, tentative conversations. Each word felt like a step forward or back, depending on the day. Mark remained a constant, his wisdom a touchstone in the chaos. His reassurance was a gentle reminder of the genuine bonds. A day came where the laughter felt real again. Sarah and I shared an uncomplicated moment, an echo of what was and what might be. Bit by bit, the fabric of trust started mending. What broke was being sewn, despite stitches visible from pain endured. We weren't a finished story, but the pages were no longer blank. We wrote anew, with ink that held promise. A slow, hopeful journey. I stared at the text. My husband Mark had cheated. He always seemed reliable, with his short brown hair and casual plaid shirt. I couldn't believe it. Mark walked in, unaware. His confident stride betrayed nothing. I tried to act normal, but my heart raced. I couldn't look at him without feeling crushed. I spent that afternoon in our bedroom, my mind swirling. My favorite quilt now felt cold and distant. Memories of laughter and love seemed a bitter joke. I'd felt betrayed before, but this was savage. We'd been married for over 12 years. Mark, who promised me loyalty and devotion, now felt like a stranger. That night, as Mark slept beside me, I lay awake. His rhythmic breathing only deepened my sense of isolation. I wanted to scream, but nothing would come out. I couldn't leave him yet. There's this fear of being alone, staring at empty walls. So I decided to confront him, but on my terms, when I'm stronger. Over breakfast, I tried acting normal again. Mark, still in his casual attire, discussed everyday things. I studied his face, searching for any hint of guilt. I needed some air. Walking in the park, surrounded by families and laughter, I felt both connected and utterly alone. Letting nature soothe my raw edges was my only relief. I saw the message again, daring myself to read each word, each betrayal. My heart pounded as reality hit harder than before. Tears finally came, unwillingly. I confronted Mark. My voice quivered, but the words flowed. His face, initially confused, quickly darkened. He tried to deny it, but I had proof. In that charged moment, he confessed. His remorse was overwhelming, but my anger felt insurmountable. Words became weapons, and I didn't hold back. The silence afterward was deafening. Mark's head hung low, eyes on the floor. I took a shaky breath, feeling a hint of relief mixed with heartache. I left the room, my heart heavy but my mind clearer. I still couldn't fathom his betrayal, yet there was an odd sense of closure. For now, anyway. A few days passed with awkward silences instead of laughter. We were together in the same space but worlds apart emotionally. I contemplated. Therapy, hesitant but hopeful. Could it mend what had been shattered? Mark seemed willing, suggesting change, yet doubts lingered. Mark's heartfelt apology seemed genuine, but trusting him again would require an immense leap. I wanted to believe him, though fear clouded my judgment. We visited a therapist. Her warm smile and understanding seemed hopeful. Mark and I shuffled awkwardly, unsure if honesty would save us. During therapy, I let out the anger and pain I'd been holding. Mark listened, eyes wide with regret. I sensed an earnest desire to change. Mark admitted his flaws, revealing more than I'd known. It was the start of a baffling understanding, unveiling layers of our fragile marriage. The more we talked, the more layers unfolded. It was unsettling, yet enlightening, like peeling away at secrets that had silently strained us for years. Out of nowhere, our young son interrupted. His innocent laugh cut through the tension, grounding me in the reality of family bonds. Fragile, yet enduring. Back home, I found myself staring at old family photos. I felt nostalgia mixed with bitter longing, questioning what had truly been real. Mark joined me by the fireplace. There was an unspoken understanding. Not everything was lost, but rebuilding would need more than apologies. Over time, silence was gradually replaced by candid conversations. This was new, a fragile bridge spanning our hurt. It felt unusually promising. Mark brought flowers one evening, each petal a symbol of renewal. It was a small gesture, but meaningful. Trying seemed more real than before. We laughed together at dinner, an unexpected breakthrough. Humor reintroduced itself tentatively, and for the first time it felt genuine. I realized accepting the unthinkable was a process, not a moment. It's rebuilding trust, day by day, grappling with past and future. Challenges remained, but there was progress. Our love transformed, reshaping from turmoil to tempered companionship. It was surreal, yet oddly comforting. Mark held me one evening, a hug speaking volumes more than words ever could. In acceptance, there was strength, however unfamiliar. With newfound resilience, I embraced uncertainty. Accepting what seemed unthinkable a while back now felt like strength, a peculiar, poignant rebirth. I sat at the kitchen table, my heart pounding, trying to read the text without shaking. I never thought I'd find something like this, betrayal right in front of me. The message was clear. It was him, my partner, saying things I never thought he'd say to someone else. My mind raced with confusion and anger. I felt the kitchen walls closing in as I attempted to breathe. My stomach churned with a burning anger, my hands gripping the table edge. I needed to confront him but didn't know how. We had been together so long, it was incomprehensible. I stood up, deciding I would address this today. I waited until he got home. The hours stretched long, each minute louder than the one before. Anxiety gripped me tightly, like a relentless vice. Finally, he arrived home, cheerful and oblivious. My heart tightened, anger mixing with sadness. How could he wear that smile after everything he'd said to her? I asked him about his day, then slid the phone to him, the text glaringly obvious. My voice cracked as I demanded an explanation. Silence swelled. His face fell instantly. Panic and guilt washed over him. He looked like a deer caught in headlights, pleading eyes searching for a way out. He stammered, struggling to find words, weak excuses bubbling up. My fists clenched in frustration. The realization of betrayal felt like a punch to the gut. Suddenly, I couldn't hold it in. The anguish, the betrayal, it all spilled out in a torrent of shouted words. His remorse was pitifully clear. Unexpectedly, he began to cry. I had never seen him so vulnerable. The person who hurt me now seemed disturbingly broken. Seeing him cry shook something loose in me. I couldn't understand why part of me wanted to comfort him despite everything. A storm of emotions. Against my better judgment, we both sat in silence. I could feel the weight of his regret, hoping it would somehow outweigh the bitterness in my heart. I knew I wanted answers. Why? How long? But words felt useless right now, swallowed by the dense cloud of betrayal that loomed between us. Night descended, wrapping our home in quiet darkness. The world outside felt lonely, reflecting the isolation I felt within. Time creeped painfully around us. He tried to explain. Words about loneliness and mistakes hung in the air, inadequate and hollow. I listened, as if verifying the truth. One painful truth revealed. Months of deceit. Each revelation cut deeper, twisting the knife of betrayal he'd already plunged into our relationship. I contemplated leaving. The sofa felt miles away, like it held the boundary between who we were and what we could never be again. Yet something held me back. I didn't leave. Was it love? Fear of change? I couldn't discern. The toxicity gnawed at me, yet I stayed. I went to the bedroom, leaving him to his silence. Loneliness enveloped me, whispering sweetly of lost dreams. I laid down, staring at the ceiling. Morning came too early and too bright. I awoke, bleary-eyed, facing the reality of the choices ahead of me. Could I rebuild trust? As light bathed the room, I made a decision. I couldn't stay in this stagnant hurt. I needed to act. I had to confront everything. His apology hung in the air like a sweet poison. No matter how sincere, it couldn't erase what had been done or restore faith easily broken. I packed a bag. Each item felt like a part of the life I built being torn apart. Yet it was necessary. Steps toward healing. I told him I needed space. The word separation slipped from my lips, heavier than I imagined, echoing through our once shared home. Leaving was hard, every step a weight. I walked out, feeling the house's last grasp on me. Freedom and fear mingled on the doorstep. Once outside, the world felt different. I breathed in deeply, the air almost foreign, ready to face whatever lay ahead without him. Weeks passed. Solitude wasn't easy, but healing began slowly. Small moments felt significant, reshaping me with each passing day. I started to forgive, not necessarily him, but myself for not seeing sooner. I realized that growth sprang from this pain like new leaves after winter. I wouldn't return to him, but I learned to live anew. I came to understand that sometimes betrayal leads to clearer paths, unseen without the heartbreak. I walked into my apartment, feeling drained after another exhausting day. My reflection in the mirror showed tired eyes and a worn-down spirit, clad in a simple blue blouse and jeans. I thought about the mounting pressures, work deadlines, family expectations, all swirling relentlessly. Sitting at my kitchen table, the hum of the refrigerator was my only companion. Mark, my partner, still in his office attire, walked in brutally late again. His detached greeting barely pierced my cloud of weary thoughts. As he opened the fridge without a word, silence stretched between us like an unbridgeable gulf. My heart clenched with growing despair. The whispers of doubt crept in. What if this was it? Our love dulled by routine, just two strangers occupying the same space. I swallowed hard against a rising panic. I quietly asked him about his day, hoping for a spark of connection. His mumbled response, barely a sentence, felt like a stab. Feeling like the room was closing in on me, I excused myself to freshen up, hoping the steamy embrace of a shower would wash away the day's debris. The sound of water running was hypnotic, a temporary refuge. I let the steam envelop me, eyes closed, hoping to soothe the turmoil within. Unexpectedly, Mark peeked in to ask something trivial, snapping me back to reality. Annoyance flared through my brief tranquility. As the water cooled, I realized I couldn't find solace in routines anymore. Drained, I dressed quietly, determined to confront what was eating at me. Back in the living room, I found Mark fixated on the TV, oblivious to my presence. It pierced deep, the sight of him so blissfully detached. When I finally spoke up, eyes meeting his, I felt my voice tremble like never before. Intense vulnerability lay bare between us. I confessed my fears about us, about our love dying slowly. Words spilled out, each one cutting deeper, revealing my bare heart. He listened, his expression shifting from confused to pensive. For the first time, I saw a flicker of recognition, a break in his stoic facade. Mark admitted to feeling similarly lost, a shock not expected. His vulnerability mirrored mine, surprising and oddly comforting. Feeling hopeful, I proposed rediscovering us, slowly, intentionally. It was scary, but necessary to not wither into oblivion. With shared determination, we started with small gestures. A walk together, making dinner side by side. It was a beginning, healing the fissures slowly. Laughter returned at unexpected moments, a balm for our souls. It felt foreign yet sweet, a reminder of what we used to have. I realized these moments, while small, were valuable, a foundation to rebuild upon. Healing was a mosaic of tiny triumphs. One evening, Mark surprised me by playing our song. I watched him, eyes misty from unexpected joy. It was a gesture of understanding. As time went on, our new attempts felt genuine. We shared stories old and new, rekindling forgotten laughter and memories. Out of nowhere, my sister called. crying, asking for support during a breakup. The abrupt invasion of her world shook me. Juggling her sadness with my fragile hope seemed impossible. I felt torn, facing the demand of supporting her while trying to solidify my own grounds. I confided in Mark about my sister's plight, revealing my fears of slipping back into chaos. He promised unwavering support, a pillar I could lean on. Mark suggested taking my sister under our wing for a bit. It was a generous offer, one that coupled our strength to face any trial together. With my sister moving in temporarily, new dynamics emerged. It tested our newly mended bond, yet also brought unexpected laughter amidst shared burdens. During quiet moments, I often reflected on how fragile yet resilient love could be. We were evolving, adjusting to change with courage. One morning, I woke to sunlight streaming in. A rare calm washed over me. The warmth felt like a gentle assurance that we were on the right path. Seeing Mark and my sister bond like family was rewarding. Their laughter in the kitchen was a melody that soothed my heart. In this new chapter, love wasn't perfect, but it was earnest. Each day stitched together with fragile yet hopeful moments, leading us not into oblivion, but enlightenment. I felt lost, staring at the greasy kitchen stove. 35, struggling to keep the family together. My worn-out apron and tired gaze told a story of constant chaos. My husband, Mark, looked tense in his gray suit as he sipped coffee at the kitchen table. He avoided eye contact, focusing on the newspaper, leaving unspoken words hanging between us. As the kids scrambled for their school things, shouting filled the air. Their backpacks lay scattered, a sign of hectic mornings. I sighed, feeling the weight of endless responsibility. "I can't do this anymore," I muttered, finally voicing my frustration. Mark paused, his eyes widened, as if my words broke a long-standing silent agreement. Mark, still in that gray suit, stood abruptly, his chair scraping the floor. "What do you mean?" he asked, voice laced with disbelief, as if he never saw it coming. I couldn't hold back the tears as I leaned against the counter, overwhelmed. We lived in constant chaos, never finding harmony or peace. It was time for me to choose clarity. Mark crossed the room with a hesitant step, stopping just short of me. His face mirrored his uncertainty, trying to grasp the magnitude of what I'd said. Silence lingered between us. We sat on the worn couch, silence heavy in the air. I watched Mark, his expression a mix of confusion and concern as he stared at the carpet. We desperately needed this conversation. As Mark began to speak, his voice cracked. "I thought things were okay," he admitted. His genuine surprise was almost hurtful, realizing how disconnected we'd become. I reflected on all those moments I felt alone, despite being surrounded by family. I had been avoiding confrontation for too long, willing to choose clarity now. Mark's phone buzzed, pulling him away from the charged atmosphere. He glanced at it with a mix of relief and anger, realizing how distracted he'd been by work. The kids' laughter outside broke our silence. Their voices, once comforting, now reminded me of the delicate peace we needed to seek. For them, for us. I felt a sudden urge to escape the stagnant atmosphere and walked out to join the kids. Their smiles as they tossed the ball around cleared my mind for a moment. Mark followed me outside, a hesitant shadow on the doorstep. Seeing the kids, his face softened slightly, realizing he needed to reconnect with them too. Joining us in the grass, Mark tried to engage with the kids. His awkward attempts to throw the ball showed he was ready to try, but unsure of how to start. The awkwardness slowly melted, and we laughed together. For that fleeting moment, we were united, hinting at the possibility to choose clarity and closeness moving forward. Later in the evening, as the kids fell asleep, Mark and I sat silently on the porch. The cool breeze whispered through the trees, soothing but reflective. "What now?" I whispered, my voice blending with the gentle rustling of leaves. It felt like the beginning of a new chapter, uncertain but necessary. Mark took my hand, a simple act of reconciliation. "We'll figure it out," he uttered quietly, his assurance offering a comforting promise yet filled with uncertainty. We sat for hours, speaking candidly, revealing truths we buried. Each word helped peel away layers of confusion and misunderstanding built over years. The next morning, I woke up early, feeling lighter. I decided to reorganize the kitchen, my way of choosing harmony and clarity. As I cleaned, I found a family photo buried under a stack of old magazines. The smiles captured a forgotten joy. I realized how much we needed to return to that warmth. Mark entered the kitchen, visibly calmer. Seeing me with the photo, he smiled gently. "Remember this day?" he asked, recalling happier times. reigniting hope. We left the kitchen for a family outing, our first in weeks. Mark drove, laughing with the kids in the back seat while I marveled at the shift in our dynamic. At the park, we walked hand in hand. The kids ran ahead, their giggles filling the air. Mark squeezed my hand lightly, our silent pledge towards clarity and togetherness. Instead of our usual arguments, Mark and I shared stories, found common interests. We sat on a bench, our conversation alive as the kids played around us. Returning home, our once chaotic house felt different. The tension had transformed into gratitude and hope, proving that clarity was possible. Later, Mark cooked dinner, something he hadn't done in ages. As the aroma filled the kitchen, it felt more like a home we envisioned, moving forward together. We sat down for dinner, laughter filling the room as stories were shared. Our past struggles felt distant, reminding us that we could maintain this newfound clarity. Reflecting on these changes, I felt relieved. Choosing clarity had been hard but necessary. Our journey promised peace we couldn't postpone any longer. I remember feeling crushed when I discovered Mark's betrayal. My heart pounded with a mix of anger and disbelief as I replayed his lies. Mark had always been the charming guy with a sly smile. He wore that same gray suit every day, making me trust him without question. Every time Mark spoke about loyalty, I found myself nodding along, never suspecting he was living a double life. There was always something off during meetings, but I shrugged off my instincts, dismissing them as paranoia. The email with his travel itinerary sent shivers down my spine. It was like staring at undeniable proof that I had been deceived. Confronting Mark was surreal. His unapologetic demeanor made my blood boil, but I kept a level head and demanded answers. He tried to brush it off, giving weak excuses and denying everything despite the evidence. His lies twisted like daggers. I felt my heart break as I walked away. His betrayal was too much, leaving a gaping hole where trust used to be. The loneliness seeped in as I stared at my phone, expecting an apology that never came. Silence can be louder than words. Weeks passed in a blur. Life felt gray without the connection I once shared with Mark. I immersed myself in work to distract from the pain. Unexpectedly, his voice broke my solitude one evening. He left a voicemail full of empty promises and feigned remorse. I deleted the message without hesitation, deciding I was done being manipulated. His words were just echoes of past deceit. Seeking closure, I revisited places we used to go together, breathing in the memories for the last time. Running into an old friend turned the tide. They confirmed Mark's betrayal, sharing details he never told me. With the truth unveiled, I felt empowered rather than broken. It was time to move forward and reclaim my peace. I started rebuilding my life, focusing on friendships that uplifted me. The betrayal was now just a stepping stone in my journey. Mark unexpectedly showed up at my door one evening. His face held a mix of arrogance and desperation. I calmly told him I no longer cared for his apologies or explanations. My peace was worth more than his superficial remorse. I closed the door to him and to the past, feeling lighter. The Seppo chapter was finally closed, with no regrets left behind. From that day, I learned the value of guarding my heart and being cautious. Life moved on, but my caution remained. Out of the blue, I received a heartfelt apology from Mark's ex-wife. She shared her own story of betrayal. Her story mirrored mine in ways I never expected. It felt like finding a long-lost ally, both deceived by the same man. We bonded over shared pain, vowing to support each other and moving forward. Her strength inspired me immensely. Through this newfound friendship, I discovered joy again, the kind untainted by deceit or lies. My days became full again, not with reminders of betrayal, but with moments of true connection and happiness. Each sunset reminded me of closure, marking another day of freedom from past shadows. A casual run-in with Mark months later lacked the sting it used to. I greeted him with ease, my heart calm. As I left, I realized the power of forgiveness, not just for others, but for myself. It was liberating. Years later, I reflected on how facing the deceiver made me stronger, wiser. It was a journey I'd never forget. Now, I teach others to trust their instincts, sharing my story like a cautionary tale that ends in empowerment. I stumbled upon Sarah, my ex-girlfriend today. She looked like she hadn't aged a day, sporting her usual wild red curls. In the grocery aisle, she was buying pasta, like always, and hadn't seen me yet. Memories of our shared dinners flooded back. Her scraping laughter, wine glasses clinking. I debated whether to approach her. My heart raced and my knees felt weak, recalling the abrupt breakup 5 years ago. I decided to walk up to her. This was for closure. As I approached, I felt anxiety clawing at my insides. We started chatting. At first, just small talk about weather and mundane life updates. But I sensed underlying tension between us. Then she suddenly mentioned the past, admitting to the betrayal when she left. It felt like a punch to the gut. Watching her eyes fill with regret, I realized the scars weren't healed. I felt accused without warning, and the weight settled in silence. I stammered out apologies for my faults too, for the anger I held on to. Surprisingly, she seemed genuinely ready to forgive. As I turned to leave, she caught my arm with a gentle touch, inviting me for coffee. I hesitated, unsure of resurfacing old feelings. Inside the cafe, nervous anticipation simmered between us. The aroma of fresh brews filled the air, calming and familiar. We reminisced a bit about college days and forgotten joys. Her voice, lyrical and soothing, reminded me of better times. With every sip of coffee, I felt less burdened. The years had shifted our perspectives, yet unease lingered. Unexpectedly, Sarah mentioned she had left someone for me back then. It caught me off guard. A mixture of guilt and surprise surfaced. Realizing the depth of my ignorance from years ago was overwhelming. I felt embarrassed, pondering, missed signs and unspoken bonds. She spoke of her lonely years post-breakup, tracing her words with fingers on the cup's edge. It was remorseful, yet cathartic. I shared how isolated I'd felt, filling my life with work and avoidance. Talking freely seemed to lighten the burdens somehow. The cafe grew quieter, as if our words hushed the room. It felt surreal, like time paused for us to heal. Momentarily, a child's laughter broke the silence. It reminded me of innocence and the simplicity of peaceful closure. I asked if she'd found happiness since. Her eyes reflected unexpected sadness, but a hope that hadn't existed before. Then, I realized something poignant. I hadn't been pursuing my dreams. Our lives seemed steeped in regrets, like lost chapters. Suddenly, an idea sparkled, reclaiming the future without strings attached. It would be turning a new leaf for both of us. We discussed maybe moving on and how we could still be there if needed. It was a peaceful proposal, laden with sincere promises. In the dim light, her laughter sounded like music, not weighed down by history, but free and genuine. As we left the cafe, streetlights flickered gently, marking our walk. Two friends trying again. She offered me a ride home, a gesture I hadn't expected. I felt relief. The journey back felt like closing a circle. Inside her car, we talked lightly. I noticed mutual empathetic gestures and comfortable familiarity, building anew. Passing landmarks reminded me of youthful, carefree days, moments rediscovered, not lost. Arriving home, she paused, a look filled with something unspoken. I felt gratitude for her patience and interest. We said goodbye, promising to keep in touch not because of obligation, but out of honest sentiments. As I watched her drive away, a quiet happiness bubbled inside. The future seemed reclaimable, like new breaths after a storm. I was 29, with short brown hair and a worn blue jacket, a usual working-class look, feeling uneasy among colleagues who always seemed more polished. It was during a lunch break when Mark, a tall, confident coworker, commented on my jacket being out of style. His laugh was casual, but it stung deeply. Later, I caught myself staring into the bathroom mirror, feeling small. I realized I was tired of being overlooked and decided to take control. I signed up for a skill development course, wanting to transform the way people saw me. With new knowledge, I hoped they'd treat me with more respect. As weeks passed, even my mom noticed the change. She saw me studying late at night and said, "You seem determined these days." Her words fueled my drive. I started dressing differently, trading my old jacket for more professional attire. Standing in front of my closet, I felt the metamorphosis taking hold. Weeks later, at a meeting, Mark did a double take when he saw me. His eyes showed unexpected respect when I presented my ideas confidently. Driving home, I felt oddly lighter. I didn't realize before how much people's perceptions had weighed me down. A new self was emerging. One weekend, I stumbled upon an old photo of me and couldn't recognize myself. I had genuinely changed. It was quietly empowering. Returning to work, I realized things weren't perfect. The old doubts tried sneaking back. But I didn't let them win this time. Sarah, a coworker, smiled and complimented my presentation skills, which felt genuine. It was small, yet marked the shift in team dynamics. At home, I started a journal, reflecting on those subtle changes. Writing seemed to anchor my transformation, helping me acknowledge my progress. I ran into Mark one morning. He mentioned noticing my new confidence. His unexpected acknowledgement felt surprisingly empowering. Truthfully, Some days were tough, when old habits battled the new. But showing up, even when it was hard, became a victory on its own. An invitation came for a workshop, a symbol of my new reputation. Holding the envelope, I felt strong, ready for more challenges. At the workshop, surrounded by professionals, I was nervous but excited. I focused on absorbing everything, feeling part of something significant. A surprise call came, offering a project lead position. I was speechless, realizing my efforts had reached far beyond my expectations. Standing in front of my colleagues as the new project lead felt unreal. I sensed my transformation was real, and others noticed too. The first day as a project lead, Sarah surprised me with a welcome card. Little connections showed I wasn't alone in this new phase. Outside, walking to the bus stop, the world seemed fuller. I noticed things I'd ignored before, feeling alive and aligned with my surroundings. An email arrived from a mentor, praising my progress. The validation from someone I admired was the catalyst for self-confidence. Late one evening, drenched in rain, I stood outside knowing I'd face dependencies head-on. The storm echoed my transformation journey. Back at my desk, I saw the changes hadn't stripped me of who I was. I felt the blending of past and present, creating something stronger. Mark and I crossed paths again. He shared how inspired he was by my journey. His words were genuine. Something had shifted between us. Celebrating a minor yet significant success with friends over dinner felt affirming. We toasted to growth, laughter filling the air. In the quiet moments alone, I recognized that embracing change meant accepting vulnerability. That awareness was central to my journey. Another surprise came, a letter acknowledging my leadership. Holding it, I appreciated the new directions life had taken me. At a family gathering, even my skeptical uncle noticed my transformation. His nod of approval felt like a sacred victory. Late one night, standing by a quiet window, I realized transformation isn't about leaving the old behind. It's about intertwining it. With deeper understanding, I embraced who I was becoming. A new chapter felt written, full of new cycles and connections.